Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic literally every single one of us has dealt with or will deal with eventually, finding the absolute limit of your DIY plumbing skills. You know, we all love to save a little time and money where we can, but today we're going to figure out exactly where the line is between a quick, easy Saturday morning fix and an absolute household nightmare.
So, here's the big question. When exactly does a DIY fix become a plumbing disaster? I want to ask you this right off the bat to challenge your instincts. You know that feeling, right? The drain slows down, the water starts pooling around your ankles, and your immediate reaction is to just pour anything down the sink to make it go away. But as we're about to see, that impulse can sometimes be the exact thing that ruins your plumbing.
Look, I'm going to give it to you straight right out of the gate here. Not every clog is meant for a consumer fix. I know, tough love, right? But knowing your limits is absolutely crucial. It's really the only way you prevent serious pipe damage, incredibly costly structural repairs, and fundamentally unsafe exposure to fumes or nasty, contaminated water. Backing away isn't giving up, it's protecting your home.
Okay, let's quickly look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The safe DIY zone. 2. Red flags and warning signs. 3. The chemical danger line. 4. Tools, specifically plungers and augers. And finally, 5. When to call the pros.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the safe DIY zone.
Now, I want to reassure you, there is totally a time and a place for you to roll up your sleeves. You do not need to call an expert every single time a sink drains slowly, and this really illustrates the core boundary of safe DIY. Think of a localized clog. That means one single sink or one single shower is draining slowly. The problem is isolated. If the issue is localized to just that one fixture, you are totally in the clear to try basic methods. But if it's a shared line issue where multiple drains are backing up at the exact same time, you're already way outside the safe zone.
So within that safe zone, there are 2 super simple routine maintenance steps that are incredibly DIY friendly. Step 1, literally just remove the visible debris near your strainers. Step 2, pull out and clean those pop-up stoppers in your sinks. Honestly, doing these 2 easy things regularly prevents the common buildup that leads to those annoying shower and sink clogs in the first place. This is exactly where your DIY energy is best spent.
Moving right along to Section 2, red flags and warning signs.
So, what happens when routine maintenance just isn't cutting it? Well, now we're entering the warning zone. We need to look closely at this because even minor-seeming clogs can have hidden systemic dangers lurking right out of sight. Let's run through these critical warning signs because they really require your full attention. If multiple drains are backing up, or say you clear a clog only for it to come right back a week later, pay attention. Or what if you run the sink and hear weird gurgling noises from the toilet, a totally unrelated fixture? These signs loudly indicate that you are dealing with a shared line or a much deeper blockage, not just a simple hair clog.
And please, pay close attention to this one. Foul odors. If you are smelling the sewer, you're likely facing a partial sewer obstruction or improper venting. Using those popular chemical flush-through tactics here is incredibly risky. In these specific situations, chemicals can react really unpredictably. Or worse, they can actually push the blockage further down into much more vulnerable sections of your pipes.
Which brings us to Section 3, the chemical danger line. This is the exact point where human stubbornness usually kicks in. You know how it is. You're frustrated, the water won't go down, and you head straight for the chemical aisle at the hardware store. Well, let's talk about why that's a problem. Our source material delivers this tough love very directly. Mixing products is dangerous, period. Combining different chemical cleaners or pouring them down the drain right after you've been using mechanical tools can produce incredibly harmful, volatile chemical reactions right there in your bathroom sink.
Let's be real about what these caustic chemicals actually do. Why do they fail so often? Because relying on them when you don't even know what's causing the clog is one of the most consequential mistakes you can make. They literally eat away and damage older plumbing, plastic components, and pipe seals. The fumes and splashes, they can severely harm your skin and your lungs. And if they don't actually clear the clog, guess what? You've just created a sink full of highly toxic, contaminated runoff that is now a massive, dangerous cleanup hazard. So, if you've already poured the bottle and nothing happened, you must step away from the drain. Do not escalate. Firmly put the bottle down, pause, and consult a professional. Do not pour a different brand in there. Do not start creating this hazardous trial and error cycle that's just going to melt your pipes or wreck your lungs.
All right, Section 4, let's talk tools, plungers and augers.
Let's shift gears away from the chemicals and look at mechanical tools. These are generally a much safer alternative to pouring caustic liquids down your drain, but they still need very specific techniques so you don't cause a disaster. Let's contrast our two main options here. The plunger is fantastic, but really only if the blockage is near the drain opening or in a section you can easily access. If the clog is deeper than the fixture trap, a plunger is just going to be ineffective and honestly incredibly messy. On the flip side, the handheld drain auger is great for hair and small blockages further down, but it requires a very delicate touch.
Because honestly, improper auger technique can turn a localized clog into a massively expensive structural repair in no time. Think about it. If you use too much force, you're scratching up the inside of your pipes. Feed the cable at a weird angle, you might literally dislodge the plumbing fittings entirely. And if you're just blindly poking at it over and over, you're likely just breaking debris off and packing it tighter further down the line.
I really got to warn you here. If you're using an auger and you feel it snagging repeatedly, or the cable simply won't advance after a reasonable try, stop. Forcing a stuck auger is only going to make the obstruction worse, and you could potentially wedge that metal cable into your plumbing permanently. When that happens, it's time to put the tool down.
And that leads us perfectly into our final section, when to call the pros.
Honestly, knowing when to throw in the towel on the whole DIY dream is probably the most valuable piece of knowledge you can have as a homeowner. Let's summarize the ultimate red flags that should have you picking up the phone. Call a pro when backups persist despite your localized efforts. Call them when multiple fixtures are acting up at once. Call them the second you detect strong sewer-like odors. And absolutely call them if you've already used chemical cleaners and they're just sitting in the pipes. Recognizing these limits is what saves you from extensive, wallet-draining damage.
Because here's the real value of calling an expert. They aren't just guessing. They bring in inspection cameras and high-capacity augers. They can precisely locate whether the issue is sitting in a simple trap, stuck in a branch line, or buried deep down in the main sewer line. Once they visually identify the exact blockage, they clear it with the right equipment, keeping the risk to your home's infrastructure to an absolute minimum.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, powerful thought to chew on before you grab a bottle of chemicals or a metal auger to tackle your next stubborn drain. Ask yourself, are you just solving the symptom or are you actually ignoring the system? You know, a slow drain is often just your house trying to tell you something. Listen to it, know your limits, and hey, stay safe out there.